Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here and welcome back to the workbench for a very exciting unboxing. And this is something I've been waiting for a number of years now, and it's this, the Beacon models 1 to 144th scale Spitfire and Bf109E. So join me as I take a look inside the box and see what we get. So for those of you who are not familiar with Beacon Models, this is a company that started crowdfunding back in 2021. And that's when I first discovered it and supported them on their Kickstarter. Unfortunately, the Kickstarter didn't quite get the funding that they were looking for. But nonetheless, they carried on and managed to secure the funding to produce the first of a new range of kits. If you'll remember, I have already built the Bf109E, which was a pre-production test sample, and I will link that video down in the description box. But any of the issues that I discovered with the Bf109E in that video should be resolved because, as you can see, we now have the production versions of the model. These are going to be on the website for sale very soon. The reason why I've got it before it's up for sale is because I had my pre-order in for a very long time. So let's take a look at the box, and you can see we've got a very attractive image of the Spitfire and Bf109E in a dogfight flying over a countryside setting, and it says here that it's artwork by Andrew Harris. At the top we've got a RAF roundel depicting the fact there's an RAF paint scheme, and a Luftwaffe cross, which is for the German one. It tells us over here it's 1 to 144th scale, so it's on the smaller side, and it's a dogfight set, so we've got one Spitfire and one Bf109E. Aircraft are listed, and it tells us it's the Battle of Britain 1940, so we've got a set period. On the edges of the box, it's the same information. And on this side here, it says that it's an unassembled plastic model kit with parts to build 2 aircraft, includes assembly and painting instructions, decals, adhesive canopy masks, but glue, paint and modeling tools are not included, and the suggested age is 14 or older, saying it's not a toy. So on here, we've got a tooling date of 2021, and I love that they're putting the tooling dates on here. So naturally, the tooling has been around for a little bit of time, but they haven't managed to actually get them into production until now. The decals were designed in 2022, the packaging was designed in 2022, and it was all designed in the UK. It tells us here that we've got countries of manufacture, so they've been very transparent with where they're getting the actual stuff from. So it tells us the parts and packaging is done in the United Kingdom. The transfers come from Italy, and there's a perfectly good reason why. And the masks come from the Czech Republic. And we've also got some recycling guidelines over here. And speaking of the decals, you can see that there is a Cartograph logo. So Cartograph are some of the best transfer makers out there, and a kit manufacturer to put Cartograph decals in is a great way to go. On the back here, we've got our 2 paint schemes, effectively one for each aircraft. So the first one is for a aircraft flown by Pilot Officer Gerald Statmy Stapleton in September 1940, and the other one is for a Messerschmitt flown by Oberlieutenant Franz von Werer in the same time. I believe the actual story is that supposedly this guy shot this guy down, but there was a bit of I think there's claims that he was shot down partly by him, but also there's other pilots that managed to get hits on it as well. So let's get inside the box. Oh, hang on, I'm talking about, there's paint colors down here. So it tells you the paint colors you're going to need to finish this, and they're all given a name. So it's not like a particular brand, it's just you need RAF Dark Green, RAF Dark Earth, so on and so forth, so you can figure out from your paint stash which one would be the most suitable. But there is a QR code here, which should take you to a paint conversion page, and it will give a list of the different paints for different manufacturers and their facsimiles. Down here we've got an item code BMK0009, so obviously that leads to hint that there might be other kits coming at some point in the future. And as usual, we'll look at the instructions first. So on the front page, we've got the same artwork from the box, but we have got some information about the scene and information about the aircraft down the bottom. We do have some helpful tips down the bottom here, which say that before building, wash your parts in warm water, use cement, soak the decals. In water for 3 minutes seems a little bit excessive, but I suppose that's the guidance they provide. It does mention that there are extra parts included in the kit and you might not need them for your particular version. So it's a glossy colour booklet, and we'll turn over to the front page. We have our sprue maps. It's always good to see sprue maps. Spitfire here, 109 here. It tells us down here how to apply our canopy masks, so it's great to see that there are canopy masks inside this kit, and I will have a look at them in a minute. And then moving on, the steps seem relatively easy to follow. Each part being numbered, and you can see where it goes in the step. Join the fuselage together, join the wings, tail, engine parts, underside, so you can have the landing gear raised or lowered. And that's it for the Spitfire. Not a complicated build by the looks of it. And then the 109 I've already done, so I am aware it's relatively easy to build. And there was a small issue with the pre-production sample up here where it didn't quite fit properly, but I've been assured that that has now been resolved. And you can see that you add your engine cowling, your wings, tail surfaces, and once again it can be displayed with raised or lowered landing gear. Again, not a complicated build, not that many parts to it. And then we've got full colour decal and painting instructions over here, which is wonderful to see. I love it when they're in colour because it just makes it so much easier to know what colour you should be using. So that's our Spitfire, and then flipping over we've got our Bf109. So that's the instructions. And then contained in a Ziploc bag, we've got all of our bits. So let's get them out, and I'll put these things to the side and we'll look at the transfers and the canopy masks first. So we have one sheet of transfers which are screen printed by Cartograph in Italy, and you can see on the top we've got our Spitfire transfers, and there's quite a lot on there, isn't there? So you've got your generic roundels and the registration code, and normally that's sort of all you would see, but we've also got our stencils for various panels and the gun coverings and the detector pads for gas attacks which were applied to earlier war Spitfires. And then down the bottom we've got the Luftwaffe aircraft, and you can see that there are included some historically accurate representations for certain symbols if you so choose to use them. Obviously they've been disassembled, so it's up to you to use them if you want to. Printing on these is absolutely perfect. I can't see anything wrong with them. The registry is good, and I anticipate no issues with applying them to the model. Let's now move on to the canopy masks. These are made in the Czech Republic, and you can see they are tiny. I don't know if they'll show up. There you go. So we can sort of see them there. You can see they've all been die cut, and they should just peel off nicely and apply to our clear parts. It's lovely when a manufacturer includes this. Beacon Models have listened to the community and added what they can add to the kit in order to make it as good as they can. A lot of other companies won't include this sort of thing, which is a shame, but this is a lovely addition. Anyway, so we were talking about the clear parts, so let's have a quick look at the clear parts then. So we've got these are our Spitfire clear parts here, and you can see that there are 3 different canopies on here. So we only need, I believe, number 1, X1, which is this one here, for the Spitfire that we want to do. It's the slightly ballooned canopy. The next one across is an earlier flat canopy, and then the next one across, I am led to understand, is a photo reconnaissance version because it's got extra bubbles on the side. There is a little bit of flash, but not too much. And the plastic is relatively clear and it looks really good. I think you'll be able to get a good finish on those. The canopy masks, naturally applying to these, will be very beneficial when it comes to painting. So let's have a look at the Bf109 version. Again, a little bit of flash on there, nothing that can't be solved with a knife and a sanding stick. Moulding is generally quite good. The panel lines are reasonably well reproduced, quite fine. So if you were to do this by hand, you might struggle a little bit. So that's why the canopy masks are included. And again, there's 3 different canopies here, I think, for earlier and later versions of the aircraft, depending on what you want to do. And that's a theme we're going to see as we go through. So let's take a look at the Spitfire sprue. So the Spitfire sprue is new to me. It was the Bf109 pre-production sample I've seen before, but the Spitfire is 100% new to my eyes. So there we go. All the parts that we need are on here. And I think what struck me immediately is the fact that there are 2 wing components. This one here is for the earlier Mark 1 version, and then this one here with the cannons, I am under the impression is for a Mark 2B version. So it's a cannon-armed version. So you could, if you wanted to, use different transfers, and I'll talk about that in a minute, to make a different version, a different variant of the aircraft. Compared to the canopies, there doesn't seem to be much in the way of flash on here, and the level of detail is rather impressive. You can see we've got recessed and raised details as appropriate. There is a little bit of marking there, I think, from the moulding process, which I don't think will be noticeable come the finished product. We've got a variety of spinners. There's a spinner here, which if you put some clear plastic behind it, you can make your prop look like it's spinning. We've got 1, 2, 3 different props included. We've got an earlier one and then 2 slightly different ones. I think that might be the later Mark 1 and then that's a Mark 2 version. And then moving on, tail surfaces, wheels, there's a lovely little bit of detail in there. And then flipping over, and you can see there's even detail on the inside of the cockpit, if we can get up nice and close for that. These are very nice looking kits, especially given the fact that they're so small. There's even some detail on the padding on the pilot's chair there. Yeah, they've done a very good job of creating these models. So let's look at the Bf109. There we go. The plastic feels rather dense. It is a little bit greasy. It might be worth giving it a wash. But again, you'll notice that there are 2 different wings. So you've got an earlier machine gun version and a later cannon armed version. We also got a selection of armament here, some bombs, some bigger bombs. We've got what looks like a tropical filter, so you can do a tropical version if you want. And again, the spinners over here where you can put one in clear with clear plastic behind it to make it look like it's spinning. Flipping over, we've even got a little bit of rivet detail on the bottom here. You can see that. A little bit of rivet detail on the bottom. And the issue with the misalignment, which I noticed in the pre-production sample, has been solved. It's not here at all. A little bit of flash, a tiny little bit of flash in a few places, but nothing that can't be solved. It is a very lovely looking model. So that was it for the Dogfight set. We had 1 sprue for the Bf109, 1 sprue for the Spitfire with some beautiful details on there. We've got a sprue each for our cockpit canopies, which again are quite nicely detailed, and our beautiful cartograph transfers and a pre-cut set of masks. So that is what I got for my pre-order. However, I didn't decide just to get 1 kit because I thought it'd be nice to build a couple. So I actually decided to buy 3. So I've now got 3 Spitfires and 3 Bf109s. Naturally, I'll probably only do 1 as per the box artwork, and I'll do these in other schemes. And something that was a pre-order bonus, if you signed up early, was some extra transfers. And I have got 4 sheets. I got 4 sheets of transfers because that's what I selected as my pre-order bonus. And these are not made by Cartograph. They are made, I think, somewhere in the UK. Markings, letters, numbers, etc. that you can use for making your own versions of the aircraft. You've got different letter codes here for the Spitfire. We've got some roundels. They are not, by the looks of it, done by a silkscreen process. It looks like they've been printed with a printer. So if you get really close, you might be able to notice the sort of dots that a printer leaves, but they do look quite good. And even from normal viewing distances, you're not going to notice those dots. Printing is generally quite good. If these are the same as the ones that I did on the pre-production sample, I did find them to be a little bit thin, but they did apply to the model quite well. At the top here, we've got Bf109 markings. So again, you can do a variety of different aircraft as long as you're willing to do a little bit of research to find out what they would have had on them. So I've got 4 of those sheets. I also purchased another product, which was this, the RAF dispersal scene. So this is a little diorama set which contains figures which are 3D printed. So let's have a look inside this box. There we go. So in our little box, we've got our 3D printed parts all in their little bag. So let's take a look. What have we got? We have the walls of a hut. So there should be more walls and more parts. Oh, that's the roof. Sorry, that's the roof of the hut. These are the walls, and you can see that they've been printed rather nicely. We've got even a little chimney over here on this side. So that should glue together quite nicely with some super glue. And then on this sprue, is it a sprue if it's made out of resin? There we go. We have the doors side and the edge there. And there's even a tiny little scramble bell there. Isn't that beautiful? So assembling my building and then putting it into a little diorama will be really fun to do. And then we get our figures. And you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 figures. So we've got a generic pilot. This pilot talking about how he's maneuvering with his aircraft. This one sitting on a motorbike. This one lounging on the floor. We've got a guy sitting in a chair, another empty chair, and then a pilot with his dog. And then we've got a car here. The printing on these is rather well done. I can't see any real issues with them. I'll just have to be super careful when I'm cutting them off of their supports before adding them to a model. So that was a very fun little product as well. But as a pre-order bonus, I was given some more 3D printed things. So here we've got a Kubelwagen and a Tilly. I think it's a Tilly truck. A standing pilot for each nation, and a seated pilot as well. So I can have them in a flying pose. All I need to do is replace this cockpit seats in my build with the seated pilots that I've got here. Again, these are printed very nicely, and you'll see on the end here, it says, "The Few Part 1, thank you for your help and support." So that's nice. I don't know if these will become available as products in the future, but it'd be worth signing up to the website and clicking on their newsletter so that you are notified if they do go up for sale. And then finally, the last pre-order bonus, as a way of saying thank you, we got a print work of the dispersal set. And it says down here, "The Few Part 1, 2020 to 2022, to those who made beacon models possible, who supported us, cheered us on, and patiently waited. Our sincerest and heartfelt thanks." And we've got the names of the 2 guys there who have brought beacon models to life. And that will probably find a space on my wall somewhere. And I will be tempted to use my dispersal set and all my figures, as depicted here, to possibly recreate this scene. And that is pretty much it for this video. So I think it's worth mentioning that when I pre-ordered my kits, they were pre-order prices at £15. However, because usually on pre-orders you can get things cheaper, especially if you're having to support them, people who've waited and decided to see if they would actually go into production, naturally when you go onto the website now, you'll notice that the price has increased. So next time, if you're interested in supporting them when they do the Few Part 2, whenever that is eventually started, then make sure you get your pre-orders in so you get it locked in at a cheaper price. I will add a link to the description to the website where you can see which products they've got available and how much they are currently retailing for. But personally, I've been very pleased with the quality of the products that have been delivered. I'm glad that I supported them. I'm glad that I have been there effectively since the beginning, because I am not disappointed, and I am looking forward to doing some modeling with all of my kits. So yeah, let me know down in the comments, what do you think of this product range, and is it something that you'd be interested in getting for yourself? As always, a quick shout out to my patrons and channel members for the extra support they give the channel. A massive thank you to these guys on screen. If you're new here and you'd like to see more content like this, make sure you click that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally, the last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.